always said, Nick, you don't know what you can achieve until you try it. And so they didn't know that I could actually write with my little foot until I started writing. And until I started typing, they didn't know if I could type. Until I started swimming, they didn't know if I could swim. And so we, first of all, have the greatest power in reaching our full potential with no limit. He looked up at me with his big smile, and I looked down at him, and I couldn't give him a high five, but I put my little foot on his foot, and he just smiled, and it was absolutely awesome. And his mum and dad hugged me and cried. I actually lost not just all my money, but I felt I lost all my confidence in making good decisions, and I felt like I had to depend on my parents again, not just for money, but emotional and mental and spiritual help. And it tapped into my childhood depression. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Nick Vujicic and I'm today's special guest. I'm going to share with you how I've transformed my life without limbs into an unstoppable and limitless life. Please tune in to hear my story.
Welcome! Nick.
Ni hao, ni
hao. Welcome. Finally see you in person.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Happy
coming.
holidays. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Will Taipei be too cold for you?
No.
This season?
No, this season's
okay?
perfect. Yes. It's my third time here. It's been the best trip ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
How you compare the best trip this time with the other two times you come here?
Yeah, I think it was a big influence in seeing the crowds. We had in the north a couple crowds of 5,000, and in the south we had a big crowd there as well. And we were just so thankful that, you know, I can just be welcomed into this country and just share inspiration. You know, we know how the economy is right now, and many difficult things going on in everyone's life. And I just hope to plant messages of hope and inspiration in everyone's life. And so it's great to be here on this show. That's why it was better than last time.
You have so many fans here. I think they are all beyond their excitement to see you in person.
Thank you. Hello to all my fans in Taiwan. Love you so much.
How long have you been away from home this time?
This time it's only been 4 days. But during 2013, the Life Without Limbs Ministry had a world tour outreach. And so we did about 24 countries, which added about 4 months of travel.
Are you saying in a year, in this year?
In 1 year, correct. Yeah, 4 months dispersed throughout the year. And so being a new father, it was very difficult to say, I'll be back to my wife and my son.
So do you plan to reduce the amount of time away from home in the near future to balance your private life?
It's a very high priority for me. In fact, we organized 24 countries not knowing that we'd be pregnant with a boy. And so obviously you plan your schedule very differently when you become a parent. And so for the next 3 to 4 years, my international travel is going to be quite scarce. And we're doing
That's a pity for us.
Yes, but at the same time, we have some projects in mind where my Taiwanese fans can be continually inspired. We're actually producing a magazine, and we're in the pre-production of a film about my life.
It's another film.
An actual film about my life, so a narrative film and then a bio-documentary. And so my heart's not just for Taiwan, of course, but it's for the world. Everyone needs an inspiring message. And so I have many, many invitations around the world. And so I can't continue to travel all the time. But through these projects and coming back time and time again over the years, we want to continue to uplift the next generation and mentor them to be all that they can be.
Well, that's looking forward to next year. It's going to be a very, very busy year for you, huh? You always bring message of enlightenment and encouragement to people around the world.
Thank you.
Now you have written 2 books. Many readers are deeply touched by what you have been through. But I think few of them know that your first global edition was actually published here in Taiwan, and it's Chinese.
Yes.
So what's the story behind this?
Well, we have obviously the first book, Life Without Limits, which is the summary of my life until now. Until 2010 is when I wrote that book. And we're just so thankful that book's become #1 in 7 countries.
Wow.
And 250,000 of those, Life Without Limits, have been actually sold in Taiwan alone. So we're so thankful that many teenagers are writing in and saying, Nick, I was thinking of committing suicide. I felt like I was no one until I heard your story. But I'm very much more excited about the book Unstoppable, where I actually The front cover is me surfing.
Yeah.
And
Wasn't that be too exciting?
it was a great experience. That was in Hawaii. And I see all your tags there. I love it.
Oh,
You've been reading it?
I quote a lot of your words because it's beautiful and very heart-touching. I think you have, by nature, you have the instinct to touch people's hearts.
I feel that's my calling in my life. Not just to share my story for the sake of sharing a story, but my passion and my drive for going around the world and traveling and meeting everyone is because I know one more person needs a touch in their heart. They need a touch of God. They know that they can't do this on their own. And so I share about how it's okay to ask for help, and faith is believing in a hope greater than yourself and knowing that God has a plan for us all. And so this book actually will surprise a couple people.
Yeah.
This book actually was very difficult for me to write because I really share my private life.
Yes.
What I just had 3 years ago, I went through personal economic crisis. Nick, the motivational speaker, I became depressed 3 years ago. I went through a very difficult time. We didn't tell anyone. My staff knew, my board of directors knew, of course my family knew. But 12 weeks into my relationship with my wife, girlfriend and boyfriend, dating, I actually lost all my money. I tried to start several businesses so we could give a boost to my nonprofit charity. And so I'd rather be that person to make money and give money away than to ask people for money. And that was my mentality at that time, so I worked extra hard. I actually burnt out between years 2007 and 2010.
That's not too far away.
I actually spoke 1,000 times. And 2010 was when I had a crash. And I actually lost not just all my money, but I felt I lost all my confidence in making good decisions. And I felt like I had to depend on my parents again, not just for money, but emotional and mental and spiritual help. And it tapped into my childhood depression because I never wanted to depend on my parents again.
So that was like opening your old wound.
Old wounds that I thought would definitely close. And so I want everyone to know that no one is immune to old wounds opening up. And fear comes back and depression comes back, and I had panic attacks. And it's not to put anyone at fear about their old depression, but to know that I'm just like them. I'm just like you. We all go through ups and downs. And so I share about how my wife, when I told her, babe, I lost all my money and I'm crying, I couldn't eat, I had panic attacks, I couldn't sleep. And she force-fed me and everyone prayed for me and she cried with me and she said, that's okay, I'm not going anywhere. I'll get a job and support the both of us. And that's when I knew she was going to be the wife who would stay by my side for the rest of my life. And so it's a love story as well, how we met, how we fell in love, and how I got through that very difficult time.
Just read a book. We have a Chinese edition. Yes, this is a kind of little bit different two books. For the first one, Life Without Limits, I read the message of strength, how you conquer all the difficulties, disabilities, and strongly move on. And with the second one, Unstoppable, as a reader, I felt you would like to pour much more emphasis on weakness rather than strength.
Yes.
Seemingly to me that weakness and strength play equally important role in your life to make you a complete person.
That is absolutely true. I love how you worded that. In the Bible, it says that those who are weak are made strong. When I'm weak, I am strong, meaning I know that I can't do this without prayer, without faith, without God's help and promises in the Bible. And to know that we all fail, we all make mistakes. Sometimes we do dream too big. Sometimes unexpected things happen to all of us. And so with faith, we find that hope. And so I just shared just my, if you will, my naked weakness to everyone to know that we're all in the same boat, but we all can become unstoppable.
Yeah, but when you become worldly known and popular after you choose to be a professional speaker, I'm wondering in what cases, except the financial crisis, you might still feel spiritually vulnerable.
You know, wherever I go, there are different spiritual dimensions and dynamics that you come into. I go and speak to Muslims. I go and speak to many Buddhists and different people from different backgrounds and religions. I'm put in different sensitive political situations sometimes to talk about the rights of people as far as, you know, having life. Especially with, you know, people with disabilities, you know, bringing their awareness into that society of knowing that every person is of equal value. And so when you go into different situations like that, there are many ups and downs where you don't know what to say at that specific moment. And I pray, and that's one thing. The other thing is missing my family so much. I actually think that me being away from my family this much this year, my wife and I, we agree that the longest stretch that we had this year was 33 days away apart from each other. So we're FaceTiming.
For a newly married couple, that's too long.
And a new baby, you know, so it was very, very hard. It was the most difficult thing that we've gone through, actually, individually and collectively together.
Well, she feel kind of lost the very important mental support from her husband.
You know, I look at my wife, and not only is she the most beautiful soul that I've ever met and ever will be, but she's strong. She knows that the calling that we have to go out and spread seeds of love and hope and a message of truth to 400 million people this year, more than 5% of the world, this year alone, has heard the message and the story that transforms lives. And so we know that that's a bigger calling than us.
How much change that you feel after you marry to your beautiful wife and then become a father? It's all happened in the recent 2 years.
It all happened in 2 years. To be married and then having a son. I mean, you plan your life differently when you're single, and then you plan your life differently when you're dating, and then you plan your life way differently when you're married, and then way differently when you're a father. Just the feeling of completeness, the feeling of joy, the feeling of fulfillment in my soul, it couldn't be and it can't be compared to anything else I've ever experienced in my life. I was made to be a husband. I was made to be a father. The love that I have for my son, even before I saw him, or touched him, or held him, or heard his cry, and before I gave him a chance to make me love him, to do something to earn my love, I already loved him just the way he was.
In the toy box in my room, I want to get something, and I can't get it because I don't have any arms.
It was difficult when I was with other kids and people would ask me what happened, and I said, well, I don't know.
And when people told me, Nick, you're not good enough, I tell you, man, I got so many people teasing me. When I was 6 years old, I went to school.
And I'm saying, God, why did you forget me? You made a mistake with my life.
But you, cursed from birth. God himself turned his back upon.
Stop it! Why would you say that?
Because you believe it.
欢迎我们今天的主角立克胡哲，让我们欢迎立克。
31岁的立克说：“没有手，没有脚，于是也就没有恐惧。全球5%的人听过他的演讲，拥抱过他的人不计其数。但不到20年前，他差点自杀。”
When I was 6 years old, I went to school. And in one day, 12 people teased me. I counted them all on my fingers.
And I was on the edge. All I needed was one more person to come up to me and tease me that day, and I'll be gone.
He regards himself as normal, just with a few bits and pieces missing.
Kind of wonder, try to imagine what kind of future is he going to have and what kind of life this person is going to live.
奋力一跳入水，天生没有手的立克胡哲用2根手指大小的脚趾，如螺旋桨般的滑动，在台北的水底下，如他过去一样，在水里依旧带着笑容。 用自己的永不放弃，他影响的是无数有手有脚的人，连他自己都没有预料到，在水中的笑容可以给别人勇气。眼前的力克如此坚强，可以游泳，可以跳水，可以高空弹跳。他主演影集，还在大学拿了2个学位。其实10岁的他曾经企图自杀，克服软弱都来自小小的鼓励。就在年幼的他对自己说，只要再有一次取笑，他就要放弃的关键时刻。
This one girl across the playground says, "Hey Nick!" And I'm like, "Great, here it is." She came up to me and she said, "Hey Nick, I just want you to know that you're looking good today."
这句话看来微不足道，力克却说，微不足道才让他克服了软弱。
I'm saving up my pocket money for a computer at home.
My parents always said, Nick, you do not know what you can achieve until you try it. And so I tried many different things as a child. With my little foot down here, I can actually write with my 2 toes, and I can type 42 words a minute on a normal computer.
尝试把牙刷固定在适当位置刷牙，尝试用脚踩出洗发精。其实他也能拿起手机打电话，用嘴开可乐罐。独立来自尝试，勇气来自心态的改变，而分享这些勇气，获得更多。高中的第一次演讲只有7分钟，同学的反应却改变了他的生命。
And within 3 minutes, half the girls were crying, and the girl in the middle of the room was crying out loud, and everybody looking at her, she was so embarrassed. And she put up her hand and she said, "I am so sorry, Nick. Can I come up there and give you a hug?" And she came up and she hugged me and she cried and cried and she whispered in my ear, "Nick, no one's ever told me that they love me. No one's ever told me that I'm beautiful the way that I am."
他发现做一个演说家正是他能胜任的工作，因为他的鼓励，听众很容易忘记他依旧是一位想坐上沙发这么简单的事需要花上11秒时间的人。越是缺乏，越该勇敢。就像去越南的一场演讲，理直气壮。
In Vietnam, they even have scripts for what they want me to say. They wanted us to sign a disclosure that I would not talk about faith, and we refused to sign it. Either we come without really reaching anyone, or we come loud.
...2013年2月，他的孩子诞生，一张照片瞬间100万人点赞。如果他20年前真的放弃，一切如今的美梦都不会发生。
Look how beautiful my boy is. Hi, man.
有人说，一个男人被重视的程度，端赖他重视的世界有多大。
Lord, we pray that you will lift up this country out of the darkness that it's in.
We're visiting a HIV/AIDS orphanage. Sometimes it's hard to be strong.
在全世界飞行，只是说自己的故事，让自己勇敢，就能分享勇气。他亚洲巡回的终点站选在台湾，这个最早鼓励他出书的国家。
你好，我爱你。But when I go out into the shop, 可是当我去到商家的时候 the children may come up and say, "What happened?" 他常说怎么了 ？And I say cigarettes. Cigarettes. 我说哦，抽烟的结果。Now all she sees is my head. 她只有看到我的头，你要知道。I just did this. 然后我就这样做。So she thought my head did a 360-degree spin. 所以她以为我的头转了360度。And she's like, 她在那边尖叫。
至于愚人的幽默是力克的特色。他说，当人看见陌生的事物，总会迟疑害怕，或用冷漠掩饰。他选择激发别人的微笑来迎接自己。
I jump in slow motion. 我是慢动作这样，来嘞，这样跳起来。
Especially little kids, when they look at me, they don't know what to do, and so I just share something maybe funny. If it's a cold day, I say, oh, it's so cold, I can't feel my hands, and people start laughing. Or what happened? I say cigarettes, and they think that's quite a funny thing. And so it's something that as a speaker I've used to sort of break the ice.
在台湾的演讲之旅，他破冰拉近距离的方式是和身心障碍的小朋友一起下水。立刻从小就学会让自己的身体充满空气，没有四肢的躯干就能浮起，就像充满希望，生命就能向上。而所有看着他的人脸上也浮现了同样的表情。
I think you always turn your imperfection into a lesson, teaching us how to look at ourselves, look into our inner self. I think for everyone, it's not that easy to accept what we are. And in the book, you mentioned that even you have 3 suicide attempts. Then you realize one has to be responsible for one's own happiness. In your life so far, what is the most unbearable and bitter thing that you have tasted in your life?
Well, I would have to say that it's hard to compare that crash to maybe the suicide at age 8, 9, 10, just the thoughts of that, and then trying to commit suicide at age 10. And then being away from my wife and my son is different kind of pain, kind of suffering. I would say it's more of a longing and a yearning, and you know you're going to get through it, but it's still difficult at the time. And so I think pain has different faces. There is, though, the same core emotions, whether it's fear, depression, longing, yearning, long-suffering, maybe guilt, grief. I think the fear of being alone is the worst disability anyone can have. There are many people with arms and legs who can run, many people who are successful business people, many people who have everything around them, but they still feel alone. They still feel empty. They feel like, as a father, that their family should know how much they are loved by how much money they provide or what college they can go to. It's not about that. It's about time. And that's why, as a father, I am transforming my schedule in the way that I want to reach the world. We're traveling less until they can come with me. In understanding that being a father and a husband is number one. You need to, first of all, the greatest way to show that I love my child is to love their mother. And so much divorce is happening. And I want the men to be able to stand up and take responsibility for your own quote-unquote happiness, but also for the happiness of your own home. When your wife has a problem, make it your problem. When your son has a problem, take responsibility and make that your problem. When our world has a problem, I don't want to just say, well, that's the world, I can't do anything. No, what can I do to make a difference in a transformation?
You remind me that you mentioned in the first book that your mom, when you were first born, and I think the nurse or the doctor tell her that you were born with phocomelia.
Yes.
And she was so shocked and refused to take a look at you in the very beginning. When she tell you this part and how you, I wouldn't say apologize, but how you accept your mom, at that time she has her own weakness.
I think she was a little worried and wondering when would be that day that she felt that I would be ready to hear something like that.
Well, she could hide, she could hide it forever and you would never know it.
It's true, but she is a person who was committed to telling me everything that she should she knows that I should know. Perhaps, maybe not as a young kid, but of course I'm gonna ask. And so at age 13, I started asking the difficult questions. I actually asked, Mom, tell me what happened. Tell me why this happened, how much you know. Tell me where did the doctors go wrong, if they went wrong. What happened, did you do something wrong? Then the deeper question and the most scariest question I was afraid to ask was, how did you first react? Because I felt like I wanted to know really badly, but at the same time I was afraid of what I was gonna hear. And I felt ready, and as ready as you feel to hear your mother say, I couldn't touch you, I couldn't hold you, I couldn't look at you, I asked the doctors to take you away, I couldn't breastfeed you, I didn't have peace for 4 months. As ready as you feel to hear that, you're never ready to hear that your own mother, your own flesh and blood rejected you. It was something that was hard to swallow, and it took about a week for me to overcome it. Just thinking, processing, trying to imagine. And I don't blame her. You know, I know that. It's like, you know, when kids come up to me and they look at me and they react the way that they react, I don't take offense, because if I was a 5-year-old kid seeing a guy without arms and legs, who's good looking, by the way, you know, the first time you're seeing a limbless guy, of course you're going to react the way. You know, kids are kids, curiosity is curiosity. If I didn't know that my son was going to be born without arms and legs, and I'm expecting him to have arms and legs, and then I see him without arms and legs, I would react just the same way as my parents. In fact, I admire the way my dad reacted. He came into, let me tell you, I know you know it, but the viewers don't know it.
Yeah.
When I was born, my doctors had no idea, no warning. They held me low so my mom couldn't see. My dad saw my shoulder, and he saw that I had no hands, no arm. My father knew what he saw. He knew he wasn't dreaming, and he went pale. He nearly vomited out of shock.
Oh.
And he left the room. So imagine my mom, she can't see what's going on.
But she saw her husband's response.
Saw her husband's response. He was right next to her. He walked away in shock. The doctors held me low. The nurses were there, they started crying. All in a matter of a minute. My mom's like, what is going on? My mom is a nurse who delivered 300 babies as a profession. Thought, what's wrong? Is his heart born out? Is his heart out of his body? Is something wrong with his face? Is it this? Is it that? And they said phocomelia. They at first didn't want to tell her. And my dad wanted to be there when they told her, but he was trying to recover. The doctor told her phocomelia. She knew exactly what it was, what the condition was. He said, let me see. She said, let me see him. They put me next to her. She said, I can't see him. Take him away. I can't touch him. So he sees my mom. She's in shock. He says, can I go see her? He comes to the room, unwraps me, looks at me, wraps me up, comes back to my mom and says, he's beautiful. And so he took a lead in the home early on to say, whatever comes, we're a family. We're going to get through this with God's help. So she's such an inspiration to me. She still professionally surfs. And they push me into the wave, and then I get up, and you see me doing the 360.
Yeah.
Now, no one's ever done that before, because, you know, once I get up on the surfboard, I'm like, well, what do you do?
Now we are going to see a very interesting, and we might call it Everest Hill of all the challenges Nick has ever faced. That's his surfing video. Let's take a look at the surfing video. I want Nick to do some short explanation while we are all watching this.
So we're in Waikiki right now in Hawaii. I have a friend called Bethany Hamilton, who actually was a professional surfer, and she had a shark attack.
Oh, she lost her left arm?
She lost her arm, right. And she's great. And so she taught me how to surf with her friends here. This is the first time I ever got up on a surfboard. That's Bethany right there. She's absolutely incredible. She has a film called Soul Surfer. And so it's about her story.
Did your insurance company know that you do this?
I don't have insurance yet. Everyone, I've done skydiving, scuba diving, surfing, so I can't afford my premium yet.
So Hamilton, actually, she lost her left arm, you said, due to a sharp attack at the age of 13.
She was 13, and within 2 weeks of losing her arm, she went back into the water. So she's such an inspiration to me. She still professionally surfs. And they push me into the wave, and then I get up, and you see me doing the 360.
Yeah.
Now, no one's ever done that before. Because, you know, once I get up on the surfboard, I'm like, well, what do you do?
It's too skillful.
So I did
360
I did 360, I think 3 times, and it got me on the front cover of a surfing professional magazine. So that was pretty cool.
Were you or was she initiating that you can do this?
We called her up, and she said, do you want to go surfing?
Wow.
I said, for sure, let's do it.
Now tell us more about what kind of particular inspiration you get from her.
She is so genuine. She just loves surfing. Her passion is surfing. My passion is speaking. She surfs every single day, and she just loves people. You know, everything that people have. Once you have a faith and love in your life, and you understand that every day is an opportunity to be a light to someone, be an encouraging love beacon light for someone, you really start enjoying every single day. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have bad days. It doesn't mean that bad things don't happen or you never cry again. But, you know, it really shifts your perception of the gift of today, making every minute count, making every interaction count, because you just don't know if the person you're looking in the eyes of are actually going through something very, very difficult.
Yeah, talk about a special interaction. Now I want to show you a very meaningful picture here. Okay, it's a very special angel to Nick. His name is Daniel.
Yes.
And you first met him in a speech, and he was actually the first child without arms and legs, just like you, that you met.
Yes.
People all assume that Daniel and his parents were deeply inspired by Nick. Of course, they were, and they still are. But in fact, you were the one comforted. Why? Tell us more about your encounter with Daniel.
In that photo, I was 24 years old. So 8 years ago, and 23, 24. And when I was speaking in California in a church setting, I saw a man hold up this little boy, Daniel. And I looked, like, wow. Saw no arms and no legs, a little foot like mine on the left.
So
and
he was less than age of 2.
Yes, exactly, 19 months old. And I was so moved, and I looked at him and I was like, wow, amazing. And I felt in my heart the message, the revelation. When you don't get a miracle, you can still become a miracle for someone else. And so we got his father to bring him up on stage in front of everyone. Everyone started crying. He looked up at me with his big smile, and I looked down at him, and I couldn't give him a high five, but I put my little foot on his foot, and he just smiled, and it was absolutely awesome. And his mom and dad hugged me and cried, and his mom said, now I know that God has a plan for my son. Thank you for being my miracle.
Wow, because they see you.
Because they see me. And at that hour, no joke, my parents were already on a flight over the Pacific Ocean to come visit me in Los Angeles. So 4 days after I met his family, my parents met his parents. And my mom hugged his mom, my dad hugged his dad, and it was just unbelievable. One of the greatest memories I'll ever have.
The big angels to their home.
That's it, exactly. And so I told his mom, I said, when he goes to school and he starts getting teased and bullied, I'll come to his school and I will talk about bullying and love and never giving up. And so last year I just went to his school.
Yeah. Because I heard that when he went to school and one day Daniel's father called you and tell you he was exactly what you predict, in trouble with bullies from schoolmates.
Yeah.
And bully is definitely not a stranger to you when you grow up, and you must feel deeply than anyone else. What happened in your youth and childhood?
Bullying was the reason primarily why I thought of giving up. Bullying was the judgment that I had in my life every day, and I faced it wherever I was, whether it was school or at the shopping mall, in a public place, feeling this unwanted attention, having these questions, having these laughs at me, and all these names being called at me. Bullying's such a big problem for everyone, in my opinion, in every culture all around the world. And I'm actually writing, just finished a book about bullying, and that's coming next year. And it's called Stand Strong. And so it's just for teenagers. And I want everyone to know the truth of their values, not determined on other people's opinion. And so that's why I passionately reach out to the youth, because bullying really affected my life, and I didn't want him to ever feel like he's not good enough.
How old is he now?
Now he's 6,
so
7.
6, it should be first grade.
So
after
I went
kindergarten.
last year, yeah. Now,
how the other kids do to him? Physical attack and all the stupid.
It's not. It was more of the verbal abuse.
Oh, that's even more harmful than physical abuse.
In a lot of people's opinion, you're right. Absolutely. And so.
So how you communicate with this little kids?
Well,
only 6-year-old.
I talked to the kindergarten and grade 1, because by the time I went to the school was grade 1, the beginning of grade 1, and so. I talked about love. I talked about the value of everyone, that everyone's different, you know, taller, shorter, different hair color, different shoes, different hair, you know, all these sorts of things. It doesn't matter about that. I say,
hey, Nick, what are their expressions when these little kids in the schools saw you at first sight?
At first, they're like, wow, look at him, you know, and then they see my smile, and I crack a couple jokes, right? And they love the jokes.
They don't know, and here comes a professional speaker.
And so, you know, I set them at ease and get them relaxed, and so then, you know, they're not uncomfortable. So they laugh, and they're like, oh, he's cool, you know, he's cool, he's pretty funny. And so then I ask them at the end, I said, so do you want to be my friend? They're like, yeah, I want to be your friend. I said, but I have no arms, no legs. And they say, but that's okay. I said, really? It doesn't matter? They said, no, it doesn't matter. I said, well, if it doesn't matter for how we look, then why do we tease each other for how we look if it actually doesn't matter? And 85% of every student, 85% of the students at every single school see bullying every single day.
Yeah.
We need to stop it. So the first ultrasound we had, we could see his arms, his fingers, and he was waving on the first ultrasound. Actually, it was really, really cute. And so yeah, 10 fingers, 10 toes, and we were like, awesome. We'd love him no matter what, of course. In fact, that was the question that my parents had. Why do you love Nick? Right? Are you sure this is who you want to marry?
Okay, let me show you the beautiful, beautiful woman
my wife
that Nick married to.
This is Kanae.
Kanae.
Yeah.
She's a Japanese-Mexican
Correct.
beauty.
Half Japanese, half Mexican.
This was taken where? Simply
This is
you're
in
doing
California.
Exercise.
This in California. We did a leadership camp for 55 students. And so we did the tightrope walking sort of stuff. Like
so this is like safety equipment?
Obstacles course. Yeah, so it's safety equipment. And so she went up and she did part of the course. So it was pretty cool.
So Kanae, actually, ever since you two went out, she participated your activities and all the charity things.
Wherever I go, whatever I do, if it's within the United States, most of the time she's by my side. Wow. So, and that's our wedding photo. So we got married on the 12th of February, 2012. And so it was really cool. The way that I proposed to her, we put the ring in a little cake.
How did you do it?
We put in a cream puffs. So there's like little round pastry cakes with custard inside. And so we made about 16 at the bakery, put one of them with the ring in. And so she fed me. And it was, of course, the one with the ring. And I finished up the cake in my mouth. And I said, baby, let me kiss your hand. And so she's not suspecting anything. So I'm kiss her hand, and I put the ring all the way down her finger. And she's looking at me, you know, going all the way down her finger. She's like, what are you doing sucking my finger like that, right? And then I pull back, and she sees the ring, and she starts crying. And I said, baby, I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you please marry me? And she cried for 2 minutes, and I said, so, and she said, yes, yes, yes. So it was pretty cool.
Nick is such a romantic person. You didn't learn it from anywhere, right? That's another basic instinct. There's some words I must read to you. When Nick met Kane, he said, I may not have hands to hold my wife's hands, but I don't need hands to hold her heart. Well, that's too sweet. It's a love at first sight. And, well, your love story is overwhelmingly contagious and touching. It's a testimony of true love.
It is a testimony of true love.
Can you tell us, is there anyone you know or any story that is motivated, of whom is motivated by your happy marriage?
You know, I have 4 different couples, friends, who I look at their marriage and I say, I want that part of their marriage. One of them, his name is Vic, and his wife is named Elsie. And they're in their 80s now. And they were married for 57, they are married for 57 years, probably now 58. And his wife told me that every Friday they have this spiritual dinner. And it's honoring God in their relationship, and then it's honoring each other every Friday night.
Wow.
And they light some candles, and they basically exchange just how much they love each other. And so she reads something to him, and he reads something to her. And she told me that not one day goes by without him saying how much he loves her. But it's been an incredible experience just to witness other miraculous love stories.
Now, as you already know, Nick and his wife were blessed last year with the little baby
Kiyoshi.
Joins their family, Kiyoshi. Any particular meaning of this name, Kiyoshi?
An appropriate name.
To
so
remember
in honor
his
of a father.
granddad.
Yeah. So that's us. So
I
now
know this picture. You put Kiyoshi on your shoulder.
Yes.
It's so touching that 60 million people liked it on Facebook. On Facebook. But, you know, I can't help thinking that with focomelia, it could be an agony to hope for a child. Because might keep on wondering whether the kid would born without arms and legs, just like his or her parents. So are you afraid of that time?
Look, we know that it's not genetic. We know that it's even smaller, much smaller chance that my son and my children would have no limbs, scientifically. But were we wondering? Of course. So the first ultrasound we had, we could see his arms, his fingers, and he was waving on the first ultrasound, actually. It was really, really cute. And so, yeah, 10 fingers, 10 toes, and we were like, awesome. We'd love him no matter what, of course. In fact, that was the question that my parents had. Why do you love Nick, right? Are you sure this is who you want to marry? And one of the questions that they had to her was, well, what if your child has no arms, no legs? And she said, during our engagement, they asked her, and she said, even if all 5 of our children have no arms and no legs, I would love them, I would be the best mother I can be, and at least they have a great example to follow, their dad. And now I can't hold him anymore, he's too heavy. But now and you know, I want to help change his diapers, I want to help dress him, I want to help my wife in the everyday things, and I just can't, you know, and I'm trying to keep positive on that and focusing on, okay, what I have to do is not just worry about that and that he doesn't hug me or how can I hug him. It's now being the father that I need to be that makes him want to hug me. when he stands and can hug me.
It's a heart-to-heart relationship.
The heart-to-heart relationship. And so, you know, we're going to play video games, we're going to swim together, we're going to play soccer, we're going to go camping together, you know, we'll travel the world. You know, I want to spend time with him.
Nick, you know, people, I mean, we are so envying you because you live a life without limits. Life without limits. Your parents has long installed you that you have every rights, right, to live a life without limits or labels. No matter what categorization or restriction people try to put on you, you should demand to live a normal life you deserve. How can people live a life without limits?
Well, first,
and the labels we hate most.
Right. Let me do a three-prong answer. Number one is they always said, Nick, you don't know what you can achieve until you try it. And so they didn't know that I could actually write with my little foot until I started writing. Until I started typing, they didn't know if I could type. Until I started swimming, they didn't know if I could swim. And so we, first of all, have the greatest power in reaching our full potential with no limits. So first of all, there is a truth that, of course, I'm not going to become a professional footballer, right? There is a limit to that. I can't play soccer like the professionals, so obviously that's out of the game. So we're going to understand that, yes, not everything is possible, and not an attitude doesn't fix everything, and time doesn't heal everything. But at the same time, you have the power to try, and if you fail, try again.
How did you take the first step?
Basically, my parents said, Nick, come on, do something, you know, you try something. When I try reach for something off the bookshelf and I couldn't get it, I'm crying, no, try again. Think outside the box, you try get it.
They didn't ask your sisters to go and get for Nick?
No, they even told me, stop asking your brother and your sister to help you, and you do what you can. There are some things, Nick, that you can't do, but you still should try anyway. See your limitations. And then embrace that fact of knowing that, yes, it's okay to ask people for help, but you need to do everything you can do. And then your hope and your happiness is not limited to what you achieve in the end. It's you being happy in understanding the difference of what you can change, what you can't change.
Wow, spread out the love that Nick brings from God to everyone you know. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more hug. 谢谢，我爱你。
Thank you, 谢谢。
Thank you, 我爱你。
Hey, maybe you speak fluent Mandarin. No one tell me, huh? Next time, let's do the interview in Chinese.
Thank you. 我爱你，谢谢。